Hi, we're with Peter and Midnight Madness.
Nice.
Okay.
Right?
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
All right.
Peter Kuplowsky, this is Midnight Madness! Toronto International Film Festival. All right, to begin, we would like to acknowledge that tonight's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work with this community. Thank you. This film is also eligible for the Girls People's Choice Midnight Madness Award. This is a special category. 1 of 10 films will take it home, so please remember to vote. Visit tiff.net/vote. And finally, we'd like to thank Soapbox Films for providing us with this film. This is where things get exciting, because we've had 4 days of the festival, and we've seen some awesome, amazing movies. But we've been seeing a lot of stuff from the establishment, you know, so filmmakers that have been established, films that have come with a lot of hype and a lot of buzz. Now we're about to see discovery. This is all about the discovery for the next few days. Tonight we're going to discover an incredible supernatural western, The Wind. The horror film that people have been hearing about all the way since Sundance, Assassination Nation. A really incredible, hard-boiled film noir thriller, The Standoff at Sparrow Creek, which I've been hyping up all week. I hope people check that out. And then Peter Kuplowsky's Fabric on Thursday, one of the weirdest movies you will see. And then, for people who have accused me of denying the Midnight Madness audience of martial arts movies, I have a Bollywood martial arts movie on single-handedly, I think the weirdest thing I've seen all year, Diamantino. How would I describe it? Imagine Zoolander, but Gregoraki and John Waters collaborated. It is bonkers. But tonight, we're watching The Wind. I had the great fortune to see the film earlier this summer, and it was a really interesting process because I saw the film in a really raw state. So I actually got to see the film evolve over time and get scarier and scarier. And it was such a pleasurable exchange back and forth between myself and the wonderful director that you're all about to meet right now. So let's meet her, Emma Tammi!
Peter's wearing a Western shirt right now for this film, which is fucking rockin'. Thank you.
Usually this is a good opportunity to just tease what this audience is in for.
Oh, that gives it a little bit. Guys, it's late. We gotta get the show on the road. Just wanted to say thank you so much to Toronto for having us. This festival is a dream. As Peter said, all these amazing established films have just played here, and to be a part of that is surreal. And all the cast and crew that made it out here put everything that they had into this film, really believed in it, and thanks to all of them. Thanks to you guys for
Caitlin Gerard. Goldani Telles. And Zuckerman, you see. And our incredible writer, Teresa Sutherland.
Teresa, how did you two find each other? How did this collaboration come to be?
Our producer, Chris Allender, is a Florida State alumni, as is Teresa, and Teresa did a short film that this script was based on, and Teresa, you can probably speak to that better than I can. But that's how we met through Chris.
Yeah, I wrote it, and it's, sorry.
Dillard McTee! Dillard McTee,
it was my master's thesis. I wrote it and directed it, and then Chris was at our screening, and he was like, "That's pretty cool." So he kept asking me like, "What would the feature look like? What would the feature look like?" And I was like, "I don't know, completely different." So eventually I wrote it, and he wanted to do it, and so then we met Emma.
Can I just for a second say, because I just posted today for the first time, or I didn't remember it, but Teresa's origin story for what inspired her for this story is pretty incredible. So just share that with us for a second.
Well, I'm from Missouri. I lived in Kansas for quite some time, and I was part of a community garden. And it was just a bunch of old women and me, and we would go out in Kansas, go out in this big garden, and one day we were out there, and it was just so fucking windy, and we were trying to talk to each other and just couldn't hear each other over anything. And so we gave up talking, and on the way in, we got to a windbreak, and one of the women came up to me and she's like, "Hey, you know, it used to drive women crazy." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, The wind used to drive women crazy." And I was like, "Tell me everything. I need to know more about this." So she did, and then I started researching and reading diaries of these women, and just found they were incredibly strong people. But I am a huge horror fan. I am a huge horror person, and I was like, well, this is going to be a horror movie, so.
One detail I really like about the story is not only is it sort of about how this woman said, the women in the film said something is wrong, and the men don't really listen to them or see it. But there's also that element that Lizzie's character is a German immigrant whose husband seems to be also repressing that side of her. There's that moment where he says, like, "Speak English." And I'm just wondering, when was that element something in the original screenplay, or was that something brought in later in the casting?
It was brought in later. We had a table read, and Caitlin had just joined the cast. We cast very last minute, and it was serendipitous and wonderful, the best. But we were just all chatting afterwards, and both Julia and Caitlin speak other languages, and we started speaking about that, and Caitlin has some German background, which she can speak to more than I can, and I was like, well, Teresa and I had been dabbling with the idea of Lizzie being of German descent anyway, which was very authentic to the time, and also just felt like an extension of like the isolation of the land, and even within her marriage, and certainly potentially something that would have been tied to folklore, and trying to repress a little bit of the crazy thoughts going on in her mind. But Caitlin brought that to the table completely.
Do we have questions from the audience? Yes, right there.
I was wondering if you could speak to collaborating with your DP on the cinematography being out kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Where's Lynn Moncrief? Can you go
You
over
actually
here,
got-
Lynn? We actually, have an amazing creative team. They're all here, and it'd be great for y'all to come up. Got our composer in the house, our art department.
Yeah, Ben Lundberg from
Lynn and I were pulling a lot of references from classic westerns, John Ford films, The Searchers in particular, but from all over the place. And what was the question? Collaborating. Oh, and he's a really tough guy to work with, so that was rough. As you can see, you know, ego, and it's his way or the highway. But I will say that Lynn was constantly pushing me to like really distill what we were trying to do with this film. which at times I was just like, my God, have an opinion. Let's just tell me what you want to do. And it was like such a collaboration the whole time. It was the best. And you're masterful, and I mean, it looks fucking gorgeous, right? He's
We talked about a lot of, like Bergman stuff, like Hour of the Wolf, and like you said, The Searchers, and pulled like Andrew Wyeth hearings and Windsor Homer stuff. So that's the kind of stuff we pulled together
It was a deep dive, and we definitely wanted the environment to come in on the characters, similar to The Shining, and kind of a more of a slow burn.
Right there.
Do you address if there was any troubles in, I guess, sticking to the period like it is?
What were some of the challenges in actually recreating the period and creating the production? I guess it's a question with the production design too.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta get up here.
Get up here.
Too, because they created a world, a 360 environment where these characters were completely immersed, and I think it helped a lot with the performances potentially. So I'll let you speak to that.
Well, I've never been on a set where everywhere you turn or look, it's been lived in, essentially. Usually you're shooting in a corner. That corner is that world, but then behind you are boxes and lights and storage, and just beyond everyone is just the production. And these women created the most incredible 360 experience. And on that set, it was this fun game that we started to play because it was like, what's Lizzie going to do next? Because every drawer had something authentic in it. And I knew that anywhere I turned, it would be a gift, which would let me sort of let go of what I decided to do and find something new. And I loved discovering that everything from that big coat that I wore to the trunk, to the diary, that was a real diary from that time, to the cans that are in every single piece they hunted down, and it is 100% authentic to that time. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, how did you do
It's kind of magical. We didn't have a budget. It was, these women are truly inspiring.
Where did you source some of those artifacts and those from?
Well, this was a production design dream, basically, like the 2 cabins with such different characters in each one. So we just loved, it was incredible working on this, but we got super lucky in New Mexico. Like the prop houses were amazing, and then thrifting. Elspeth is like the king of shopping, like magical touch. So, you found a bunch of stuff.
A lot of research. We did a lot of research to how people were making soap, to candles, to... Emma was really wonderful on supplying us with... She wanted to see the labor of the time, like how much time people are putting into just like simple, basic, everyday things. So that was a treat for an art department, so we could really delve into that, make the space real.
Yeah, our prop maker, Ariana, made all the food for all the meals and everything from scratch, and all the vegetables and everything. So
Right there.
I have a question about the wind. For the exteriors, did you have to use wind machines and fans, or was it just really windy?
Was it really windy?
It was pretty windy.
We wasted money on wind machines, is actually the answer to that question. I was like, could have been using this for something else. We had wind machines on the side, off, because there was so much wind actually on the land, which was awesome. I think we used it in one scene, maybe.
Yes, right there.
Just wondering, throughout the editing process, how do you stay objective after watching a scene hundreds of times to know that you're still maintaining the tension throughout? How do you...
The questions about the editing process and how one stays objective, specifically, I suppose, when shooting, putting together a horror film and knowing whether or not a scare is working. Is that what you're kind of...
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you do not stay objective. It is a wormhole unlike none other. Is Alex here? Alex, our editor, is standing by and will attest to that.
Yeah, I think it was very difficult to stay objective, but I think when I knew a scare was working, if Emma and I talked through it and we got the chills, it was like, if that concept, just talking about it can work, then I think we're onto something. And then just really bringing in other people, making sure that when Ghost Emma shows up, someone screams. That's always what's important. And then I think, you know, just trying to keep in mind that sound design and sound mix is so, so, so important to all of that. But yeah, I think it's very difficult, but if you can give yourself the chills, then I think you're there.
Thank you.
I have a question about the music. Where's Ben? There he is. Hey, Ben. So, what was the process like working together with Emma on this? What was sort of the inspiration for the sound, the oral quality of it? Were you pulling from specific instruments that you wanted to incorporate? I'd love to hear more about the music.
Yeah. You mentioned the Ritual, which I think some of you guys were probably here last year. And it was a similar approach to that in that by the time I got started, I had the hard work of all of these people that was already on screen to start with. So I kind of just wanted to start by making it sound like it looked, because it had a very refined and very distinct look, and it's period. And doing period quickly and on a tight budget is a big challenge. So I'm very good at making things harder for myself than they need to be. So that is exactly what I decided to try to do, because I just really wanted to reinforce all the hard work that they had already put into making this whole world believable. So everything you hear in the score is acoustic, even though it might not always sound that way. Emma and I got really interested in a musician that I know who specializes in unique techniques on the bass flute, which I'll be honest, I didn't even know existed prior to working on this.
Google it, it's like the most insane looking
It's wild. It's wild. And then we used a lot of the nickel harpa, which is this kind of bizarre 16th century folk instrument that looks kind of like a medieval torture device. And that's kind of some of what you heard in certain melodic sequences where there's this kind of clicking and kind of it's noisy, and there's just something very tactile about a lot of the instrumentation that we wanted to use. There's some reed organs that you like pump air through with your feet, instruments that were around at the time and just kind of feel primitive and flawed, kind of broken. It's about 7 string players. That's what you're hearing, just layered and layered. We did a lot of weird aleatoric stuff to kind of give them random instruction and then just sort of roll the dice and see what would happen. And I don't know, I gotta give her credit. We talked a lot when we started, and she had a lot of pots boiling coming down the stretch of this thing, and she kind of was just like, you know what to do, just do what you do. I got a lot to tend to here, and she really let me work and let me kind of go in the hole with it, and I think that really benefited me, that amount of trust.
We had started using some of the Ritual soundtrack for 10th, and we're like, oh man, this guy really, he's got the goods. And this is a very different sound than the Ritual, but Ben just like jammed in Asheville for 3 weeks with amazing musicians.
Recorded in North Carolina, yeah.
I'll take one more question from the audience, but first, Emma, you have a documentary background. This is your first fiction feature film. Did what you learned in documentary ever apply to how you conceived of anything in this film?
Well, I think trying to tap into an authenticity of performance is actually not totally dissimilar to when you're trying to find that in documentary as well. So I would actually say that the biggest correlate was in editorial, because this was a non-linear script. It worked in one way on the page and in a very different way in the edit. And Alex and I were rewriting it in the edit after Teresa and I had scrambled it all up in the writing before we started shooting. So it was an ongoing process, and I think with documentary, you were also finding the story in post, so that was helpful in some ways to feel the liberty to restructure it.
Is there a question over there? I thought. Yes, right there.
Does he imagine the Reverend dying?
Oh, those questions, come on. I mean, like, come on. I'm gonna answer that question. That's what the forums, the message boards are for. R.I.P. IMDb message board. Yes, right there. The question, this is a question that I feel like we can discuss potentially, because it's about the folklore of the Demons of the Prairie pamphlet. Where does that come from? What was that inspired by? I'd love to hear about how that was designed and conceived of, because that's a great question.
It was inspired by oftentimes reverends would just kind of hang out at churches and stuff along like the wagon trains coming through, and they would hand things out, different literature. I don't know if they'd go so far as to be like, hey, here's the list of demons. But they did actually hand things out to people to be like, hey, comfort, good luck, here's something to hold on to. And inside, Hillary and Courtney asked me to write like a little sermon, so there's like a little special sermon for everybody. It's real short, and I don't remember what I said. But yeah, it's based in reality, but I don't think they were nearly that like, you're all gonna die.
What inspired those names? Like those names, are they all rooted in actual?
Yeah.
Cool.
Those are demons.